Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It is Jeff Mosher and Adam Caplan here for another Inside the Birds that is going to be a wild one because we've got a lot to talk about. I think all the Inside the Birds podcasts are going to be a pretty wild one until the Eagles hire a head coach. So we'll talk about some of the head coaching candidates, Adam. I want to get into a couple of other things that are not maybe name related, but conceptual. We'll do that. First, I would love to bring our viewers in, right? Because we like to do this occasionally, to what it's like for us as reporters to do a coaching search. Because I don't know if people know this, but if you ask most NFL reporters what about the job do they hate the most, they'll probably tell you the coaching search because it is exhausting. And there's an excitement level to it, but there's also, as you know, an exhaustion of just constantly being on the phone, constantly trying to find out any information.
What's true or not. Yeah.
What's true or not. And then plus when a team casts a wide net like the Eagles are doing, you're going through so many corners and so many angles. I did talk to my friend, though, David Burkett, who covers the Lions.
Dave Burkett, Dave Burkett.
I know. I always say Burkett because of the picture.
I know. Well, it looks like it's spelled like that. I got it wrong for years until he corrected us. But anyway.
Right. Who was the pitcher? John Burkett, right? That was the pitcher in the majors?
Yeah, it's not. It's different. Yeah, he was not. John. Yeah.
So anyway, I was talking with Dave, who he's covered the Lions for quite a while for the Detroit Free Press, and I was saying this is like some crazy stuff, and he's like, crazy for you. He's like, I'm doing a GM search and a head coach search, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna shut up now. You're right.
Exactly.
That guy's making 10 times more phone calls than anybody right now. So, you've been through these things. They're very, and the fact is you don't know when the last day is going to be.
Exactly.
That's the part of it.
So speaking of that, I'll pick up where you were talking. So the 2013 Chip Kelly search.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the East-West Shrine, right? East-West Shrine week in Tampa, Orlando, that area. And I had heard pretty strongly that Chip was not going to take the job. That during the week. So my good friend Chris Mortensen reported something. He might have been the one who said he's having second thoughts about taking the job. I don't remember now. Again, this is technically 8 years ago. So there's so much amazing. It's been 8 years. But anyway, so I'm there. My radar's up because that's not what I had heard. I heard it pretty strongly. He just made a decision he was going to stay in school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there were a lot of rumors. Bill O'Brien, by the way, was a guy that the Eagles were very interested in that year. Just didn't work out. But Chip was the apple of their eye. They were not going to lose. And as you were saying, it was an absolute chase in 2013. I've never worked so hard in my life on any coaching search, any GM search. GM searches are more mundane. The coaching search, because it's the leader of your franchise, the guy everybody looks to. And that one, because he was the next Bill Walsh of today's NFL. That's the way people saw him, revolutionary with what he was bringing to the National Football League. So that one was crazy, twists and turns. Then Chip changes his mind. I'm like, what the hell? I remember it changing my week. Just before I went to ESPN, I enjoyed it. As you said, though, it was time consuming. It was tedious. It was a pain in the ass. And here's the other part of it, which you may have been saying in passing. You got to be careful of the information that's out there. Coaching agents sometimes use reporters, and they want their guy's name out sometimes, and they don't let the reporter they don't let them know what they're doing.
Right.
And you're going to see some stuff out there that's just not true.
Well, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And you and I are extra careful too. I think I'm sure right now to today, and even in this pod, we'll have what we have said is only a fraction of what we've heard, but you just can't take everything.
Exactly. Oh my God.
For real.
Look, and we're gonna have notes on some of these notes that you I'm sure you haven't seen anywhere because we've talked to a ton of people the last 3 days. I didn't know what the hell I was getting into with this one because I didn't know. I just assumed it would be people they know, like Mike Kafka. We've talked about him and Duce Staley and some of the offensive coaches. But to Jeffrey Lurie's credit, as much as you and I criticized him on our show on Wednesday, he did say they were going to talk to defensive coaches, and they sure as heck have done that. Yep. Now, I would doubt that they're going to hire one. It's kind of like I'll see it when I believe it. When they draft a linebacker in the first round, well, I'll see it when I believe it. When they, other than Ray Rhodes, I'll see it when they hire and I'll believe it once they do it. But okay, and look, they've talked to some smart people, but it's been a wild goose chase. And then once it's over, it should be over, I believe, within a week. Look, anything can happen. You could hold it if you find the right guy,
right?
And he's there, and you're like, oh my God, we got to hire this guy. Then it's over. But we'll get into that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
funny because a week doesn't sound very long, but between now and then, it will feel like an eternity for you and I. And anybody else. By the way, you people who are watching on YouTube can see this. People who are listening will just have to take my word for it. But you remember in September and October, when we were doing the pregame show or whatever, I got, I would get a haircut by my brother-in-law, right? And I was getting really close, like almost baldy type, cue ball haircuts. But now it's been like 3 months because we've been so busy doing so many different things. Look at me. You see it? Like, this is the longest my hair has ever been. It's like curling down over my ears now.
You look like a monk. No.
I know, I do. I might start, Gregorian chanting by the end of this episode. So.
And I have no stake in this, but if you live in King of Prussia or south of Philly, I go to Harpo's in King of Prussia. They're phenomenal. I've been going there since the late 80s. Mm-hmm. And they're socially distanced really well. They do a great job. See Rich if you go there. I just want to help a local business. They're great, and they're upstairs in the plaza, the older part. Mm-hmm. They do a great job and get you in and out if you're a guy in 30 minutes. And I was really very happy how distance they had it. I mean, none of us can afford to get obviously COVID. Nobody wants it, and I appreciate their time. So little help for local business here.
Yeah, no, that's really good of you. And then it's been a while since we've mentioned on the pod, but always a big thanks to frontline workers, essential workers, teachers, anybody out there who's been braving the pandemic and having to go out there and interact with people and work. So big thank you from Inside the Birds to you. We really do appreciate everything you do. Adam, you mentioned Jeffrey Lurie. Before we get into some of the coaching candidates, I wanted to kind of go back with you on something that Jeffrey said at the press conference that we didn't talk about in the last podcast, but I think it's relevant because I've been thinking about it a lot. And what he said was, and it was pretty early, was that Doug Peterson does not deserve to be fired. And what he meant was, by his resume, he should not be fired. 3 straight trips to the playoffs, a Super Bowl, all that, right? Of course, it's obvious, but he said it. And then he started to communicate that just the vision of the future was different, and we know why. We've talked about it. No need to go back on it. But I always wondered, or I've been wondering for the last day or two, how potential candidates and prospective next Eagles coaches might interpret some of the things that Jeffrey said. I mean, that's an honest look into the owner right there when he says something like that. And I feel like that there is a little bit of a reason for pause in that most head coaches, Adam, are not tasked with thinking about year 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're asked to win immediately. Now, there are differences. For example, Brian Flores was not asked to win first year with the Miami Dolphins. They were in a total rebuild. And you'll see different situations usually where it's acceptable to not have a great first year. But like, for example, Taylor in Cincinnati, he was hired 2 years ago. They had Andy Dalton finishing out that contract. He wasn't expected to win that year. Okay. But most head coaches, you want to at least see something. And Jeffrey Lurie also made it clear that, well, he didn't make it clear, but if there's an inference here where you're here to come fix Carson Wentz, if the expectation is to fix Carson Wentz, that means getting Carson Wentz playing at a good level. And therefore, so your expectation should be to win. And my only point in saying that is that if I'm a prospective candidate, I'm wondering about an owner who is basically saying a head coach does not deserve to get fired, but I didn't necessarily share the same future vision, because almost every head coach who takes a big market job, especially, is only really focused on today and winning today. And if I'm sitting in the chair, there's a part of me that wonders that if I don't get it done in year 1, how risky is my job security going to be? And when I say get it done, I don't mean win the Super Bowl. I just mean greatly improve. And have a good, quote unquote, good acceptable year.
I would say this, and this is a half rebuild. It's definitely a retooling. John Schneider, the Seahawks GM, told me a couple of years ago when they got rid of Sherman and the Legion Boom, and they were really turning the roster over. They said we are not rebuilding. He said, "You could quote me on this. We are retooling. We know we can win while we do it."
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened. And look, they've though some people argue they run the ball too much. And look, Brian Schottenheimer got fired. That's another story for another time. That was very strange, the way that went down. They were very open and honest about why he was not brought back, because they had a philosophical difference. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at their situation, Jeffrey Lurie in that press conference, he made it very clear on Monday. Look, he's taking a long-term view. That's typically not what he says. I'm going to hold him to it. That as much as you and I criticized him, and I was, people have thanked me for being fired up, and I cursed a couple times. For whatever reason I said. I don't even remember now why I cursed, but
we got the extra 1,000 listeners because of it.
I know, you're right. But God, our numbers have been huge. We appreciate that. Yeah. But by the way, every show's on YouTube. These YouTube numbers are monster numbers. Why do people want to see us? I don't understand.
It is funny because I've always thought that when you listen to, when you listen to something on YouTube, like on your phone or a device, as soon as you go into a different app, then that goes off. But I suspect that a lot of people are now, you can transfer what you watch on your phone or device to your TV if you have a smart TV. So maybe people are watching it that way and actually sitting down and watching our show, like a show.
Our numbers, generally, despite how bad the Eagles were this season, they were pretty strong. Because all the drama, maybe, I don't know. It's always hard to figure this stuff out. But we have basically, our traffic is up about 40%. We know why. It's a coaching search. We get it. It's not a secret.
Sure.
But it's just funny. It's like, where were you guys in mid-season? Now you're listening. It's just funny. It's just funny.
Well, people like to bury the head a little bit when the team's bad. I get it.
I get it. I totally
very
understand.
Tough. Who wants to hear more people?
Fine. I get it.
Bashing the Eagles.
Yes. Oh yeah. But look, moving this forward here, they have a search. Boy, the list is really long, and it could even get longer. It's a fascinating search because in 2013, they had a narrower search until Chip turned them down. And after Chip turned them down, then they went for Brian Billick, Brian Kelly, Kevin Sumlin. They were scrambling a little bit. Here, because there's so many intriguing candidates of really a diverse staff. I mean, it's a list of candidates. Offensive, defenses, young. Guys have not been coaching for very long, like Gerard Mayo, like Kellen Moore. Guys who are up-and-comers, guys they know like Duce Staley, college coach like Lincoln Riley that they have interest in. Robert Saleh is a guy that was a runner-up for the Browns job. Mike Kafka, guy they like. So Todd Daboll is a guy that they know. It's really an interesting search and a very interesting list. Yeah, no, it is. Let's talk about, before we get into names, concepts like analytics. We mentioned that was one of the four. I came up with four criteria. You got a shaky quarterback situation. You got a bad cap situation for year one. You have an inherited GM. A lot of new coaches kind of get to have a say in that, but they won't hear. And then, of course, you've got the franchise reliance on analytics. So those were four things that I thought might potentially scare some candidates off, any one of those problems. But the analytics thing is interesting because in some ways, Adam, Doug was a real perfect match for the Eagles because he was familiar with the climate. He had been here, right? He inherited a good cap situation. He knew Howie, but most importantly is that Doug came with a reputation. I remember asking around about this just as they were hired him and I said, what makes Doug, different than Andy or what's the defining part of Doug? And I kept being told he's very, very aggressive. He's an aggressive offensive mind. He had swag. Yes. And part of that was the going for two and the keeping the offense on the field for fourth down. That's stuff that obviously Geoff and Howie are really into from an analytics standpoint. So this is a big part of what they do and what they're looking for. And as you mentioned all those names, I think a big wild card and what we probably don't know is how embracing of that type of analytics are these candidates. There's got to be a few of these guys that are maybe a little bit more old school than Doug went for it more than any coach in the league on fourth down, I believe. And also for 2-point conversions. Yeah, so, which is by the way, in the 2016 search, I was shocked that they talked to Tom Coughlin. Exactly. It made no sense. It like that we didn't get into that search, but that search was That one, look, Doug Peterson was so far down the list. He was a compromise candidate, some people said, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. That was not their first choice or second choice. But just he was the guy that they had standing by if it didn't work out. And you never know. It was like with Mike Tomlin. He was nowhere close to the Steelers' first choice. He was way down at the bottom of the list. Sometimes the guy at the bottom of the list becomes the best choice. You never know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Jeffrey always goes back to that with Andy Reid, right? I mean, this was a guy that nobody wanted to interview, and
no one heard of him back then.
Nobody had heard of him.
This is the infancy of the internet in 1999.
Yeah,
it was hard to get information. I remember Joe Banner telling me, in fact, he might have done it on our show too. He said that it was hard to get people to tell the truth when you talk about coaches or you talk about executives you're trying to hire. Some guys push their friends, some guys hide information. So that's the key with these coaching searches, which the Eagles are having now. They got to get good information on each guy, and they got to talk to the right people. It's not always easy, but Howie Roseman, one of the things he does really well, he's very well connected. He's got a big Rolodex, and he's got to sift through information and understand who he can trust and who's just pushing a guy that maybe the team that they are on now don't want.
Right. Well, I tell you, when I talk to people around this league, executives, coaches, whatever, that I know, and I ask them if they happen to have any knowledge on these guys that are on the Eagles list, one of the first questions I ask is just how into analytics they are, and how much they embrace it. And I've gotten various answers. You know, the common answer you'll get is that someone likes analytics, but at the same time, they also want to. I'm not talking about any one person in particular. I've just heard this a lot. Oh, yeah, this person embraces analytics, but they also want to be able to make a gut call when it's time to make a gut call. But sometimes they don't realize that what they're saying is almost like, well, analytics is involved in game day planning so that you don't have to make a gut.
Exactly. Boy, man, 17.
Exclusive. Yeah, I mean.
2017, no team got it right better than the Eagles with analytics in terms of game day game planning. That's what Joe Banner said. He never wanted it involved in the draft. He said it was all about game day. And the Eagles have obviously taken another way. I know you and I have heard the same stuff. It's very involved with the draft. Now, because it's hard to quantify how much it's possible to put a percentage on it, but it's absolutely a factor. The Eagles are not the only team that uses analytics heavily in the draft in terms of the process and taking numbers and trying to identify what they mean and quantifying and so forth. But, getting back to the coaching search, one thing I did hear this week, word got to me from around the league is that, mentioned in passing, but I could define it. So Carson Wentz's name came up in these interviews in terms of, I don't know how, because I'm not in it. I don't know exactly how Roseman or Smolensky or Jeffrey Lurie asked, but my understanding is that they asked the interviewees, hey, so how would you handle Carson Wentz? How would you develop him? How would you handle our quarterback situation? Because if you're a guy like Robert Saleh, who's not an offensive guy, who you bringing in? I reported a week ago that it's either going to be Mike McDaniel or Matt LaFleur's brother.
Mike LaFleur, yeah.
Mike LaFleur, both guys on the list. And everything I've heard since then would suggest that I'm still right. Okay, great. And the Eagles had interest in both of those guys last year. So here's the question. Okay, Robert, how are you going to do it? You better have an answer. Okay, you're going to hire those guys, but what is your plan? You want to, okay, here's the coach, but what is your plan to make sure it happens? You got to be able to answer that. That's important. And that it's an obvious question they have to ask. Now, does that mean Wentz is staying? No, it doesn't mean he's staying. It just means that if he does, what is your plan?
Right. Good. These are good questions to ask and things that both sides are going to have to hash out. All right. Visit our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of all of the Philadelphia sports teams. They cover them like nobody else does. They are for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you're checking them out. You can find them on Twitter at phlsportsnation. And of course, at that website, phlsportsnation.com. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, let us talk about the names. And by the way, I gotta say this really quickly because somebody commented it on YouTube, and it made me laugh. Okay. So for those who listen and hear, where I record this podcast, right, in my little studio here, as I like to call it, I have a broken air purifier.
Oh yeah,
that
the noise
beeps every 15 minutes. I guess somebody thought I was in a hospital.
Oh, geez. Oh, with the IKG.
Yeah.
EKG,
So,
I mean? Yeah.
so the mystery is solved. For all the people out there who've always wondered, what is that strange beeping noise? One day, I promise, I'll fix it. It probably just needs new batteries. It's just
That's
it
hilarious.
ain't gonna happen before
That's
the Eagles
hilarious.
name a new head coach. But
so I have an alcove in my finished basement in my office. I do radio. I have a radio studio where I do all my national radio. And then here, my wife and I built this, and I put all sorts of knickknacks because you could just put books up there, but I wanted to put a lot of Philly in here. Just I'm not a big reader, but I've read every book that I have, which is only 20 now.
So all the books you've read are on that shelf.
Right, exactly. I got Seinfeld stuff. I have Three Stooges. I'm a fan of. Like, if I ever pan up the Tasty Cake, I got that from Tasty Cake. A lunchbox. This is an authentic Eagles helmet. All these books and hats and footballs and my Merrill Reese mug he gave me.
Nice.
My friend Sean Jensen, who's writes books with ex-NFL players.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. I was never a bookcase guy, but I'm like, let's make it look. Schefter's got a really nice one. I was like, you know what? I like that. Having a black bookcase.
Oh yeah.
Figured, all right, I'll load it up, but I'll do it a little differently.
My friend just put me onto a great Twitter account. It's called @RateMySkypeRoom.
Oh, it's outstanding. I got to do that.
And whoever's opened the site, it's usually they're pulling like these Zooms, right, from like NBC or CNN or Fox News or whatever, and rating. They give them like something out of a 10 rating on the background. So
that's awesome. It's funny.
Send one to them and see what kind of grade we get.
For the people watching who love wrestling, I at an auction, I won a NWO. I'm looking at it, but it won't work here. It's too big. It's a framed autographed picture of Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, and Kevin Nash from 1996. It's actually really cool. Nostalgia. I don't collect autographs. I've never been nostalgic like that, but there's certain parts of my life that brings me back to certain stuff. So you as a kid, before we get back to this, just a little aside here.
Yeah.
What motivated you to get into to cover football? I don't think you and I have talked about that before.
No, it's actually a really funny story.
Curious.
Baseball, I think I've said it on the podcast.
You're a baseball guy, I know.
Baseball is my first love. Baseball is my first love. The NBA was my second love. So I kind of was later on football, and I was a baseball beat writer, a minor league baseball team beat writer for 5 or 6 years at a paper in Jersey.
Mets?
No, minor league. It was actually it was the independent league, the Atlantic League. It had the Camden River Sharks and the Somerset Pit and the Atlantic City team, the Newark Bears and all that. But it was cool because they were an independent league and not affiliated. And they were a startup, and there was a lot of money involved there. And in the area, we had players who were already in the majors trying to get back in.
Was Ricky Henderson?
Yes, Ricky Henderson, Jose Canseco,
yes,
Ozzie
I remember
Canseco,
this.
Tim Raines. Oh man,
my
I met
God,
some unbelievable dudes.
Oh my,
man.
This is so cool. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Any good cool stories covering these guys?
We don't have enough time.
all right, we got to do this one. We'll save it after. After we're done with all the stuff, we got to do this in February. I want to give it.
The manager of the team that I covered, Adam, is Sparky Lyle. And if any of our readers out there know who Sparky Lyle is, or ever read his book, The Bronx Zoo, about his time in the Yankees, which is all about circus and partying. Yeah. The baseball is like the sideshow.
Phillies too, by the way.
Yeah. He pitched that's why he still lives in South Jersey.
But back up. What did you say about the stories?
The Bronx Zoo, if you've ever read, I don't know if you've read it, but it's
never
really
read
not.
It, I've heard of it.
It's not as much about baseball as it is about what went on in the locker room of the Yankees in the 70s. And as a quick aside, I don't know if you remember this, but 2 Yankees that played with Sparky on that team, they traded wives. They traded wives.
What?
2 Yankees traded wives with each other.
GTFO.
It's all in the book, brother. It's all in the book.
Oh my God! I'm gonna have to get it.
Wait, and Sparky was the ringleader of that circus, by the way.
Wait, who? All right, so Jim Bouton was Ball 4 or whatever it's called.
Great book.
Okay,
amazing.
Who wrote the Bronx Zoo?
Sparky Lyle.
What was a Sparky? Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
It's
Holy
a
smoke. All right,
it's
great
an
stuff.
unbelievable book. So anyway, I got
Now I'm gonna have
stories
to get
upon
it.
stories.
Yeah, have to get
Most
it.
of them are not
Okay.
very clean because you know how baseball players
I
are.
figured that's why I asked you.
So anyway, I covered baseball. I was hired by the Wilmington News Journal in 2005,
Okay.
five, somewhere in that range,
Okay.
to cover the Phillies. So I was on the beat for the first when Ed Wade got fired, and then, so my first job is one of those jobs reporters never want: GM search for Pat Gillick.
Sure.
So, I had at the time there was a lot of movement in newspapers. Guys were getting laid off. Things were changing. Our Eagles writer, his name was Kevin Noonan. He became a columnist because we lost our columnist Doug Les Maurice to the Ohio State paper.
God, I know Doug.
Columbus Dispatch.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
He's still there.
We were looking for an Eagles writer, and I told our sports editor, "Can I be the Eagles writer?" Because I was looking for something new. I had done baseball. I know I was just hired to cover the Phillies, but I wanted to try something new. And he's like, "Well, I hired you to cover baseball." And I was like, "Well, maybe you can find a different Phillies writer. It's the off season. You got time." So he goes, "All right, he tries." So lo and behold, he winds up hiring Scott Lauber to cover the Phillies for us.
Sure.
Right. And then I move over to the Eagles beat. And then Scott goes and winds up covering a World Series team way before I ever got the Super Bowl.
Oh my God.
And then he went on to cover the Red Sox for the Boston Herald and then ESPN up there. I tell Scott he owes his whole career to me. Because if I didn't move over.
You've had some career. So you've covered Major League Baseball, minor league baseball.
Oh, yeah. I was a backup for the Nets, New Jersey Nets beat while I was also a minor league baseball.
Who was the lead beat writer then?
His name was Bob Considine.
Oh, no.
And he covered the Nets, and this was in the late 90s. This is when they had Jason Kidd and Kerry Kittles and Keith Van Horn and went to the back-to-back championships.
Oh, my gosh.
Man, wow. I've covered it. You name it, I've covered it, my friend.
That's really cool, man. Really cool.
NASCAR, I've covered NASCAR. When you work for Wilmington.
I've never been to it. I've been told I got to go.
No, you don't really have to. Trust me.
Oh, really? People say it's so cool to be there. Okay.
It's all right. It's very loud, man. It's hard to hear anything because you got the cars going around. Yeah, but no, I've covered it all. All right. So back to the podcast that the Eagles coaching search. So we got a lot of names here. I'm going to tell you in a little bit why I think one name is going to wind up standing above all the rest for strange reasons. But let's go with the order of the list here. Mike Kafka. What do you know? Is the
we talked about him on the last show.
Right.
I still believe the Eagles are very interested in him. It's just a situation. He's really young. Okay. He turns just 34. He hasn't been coaching for very long. You just have to take a leap of faith. He's super smart. If they're going to hire an offensive coach, it's got to be someone who's progressive coach with the passing game. He fits that profile, and they know the guy. Doug Peterson, they knew the guy. Okay. Right. We'll get to Duce Staley soon. That helps them get on the list. I'm not putting these in any kind of order, by the way, just the way the list that has nothing to do with it. It just, I just went through my mind. Okay. Here are the names that were given to me, or I confirmed, or I've heard about that I know they're definitely interested in. I started with a list of 25 people. I asked my best wishes, is this guy would be on the Eagles list? And I scrubbed a lot of them. It's just that I'd heard, nope. You got to talk to the right people. You got to trust the people you've known for years. Hey, is this guy they would be interested in? Okay. Some surprised me, but I think you're right with the analytics stuff. They've got to embrace it. It's got to be a part of it. They've also, if you're a defensive coach, you better have a great coordinator who also could develop quarterbacks or have a great quarterbacks coach, or you're not getting on the list. That's just the way it works.
Right. So Mike obviously comes to the Chiefs pipeline. And as I understand it, just like you've articulated, yes, the Chiefs have an analytics department. They believe it's a big part of, it's a part of what they do on field. Not be all end all. Andy has always been a gut coach first and foremost. And I don't think it's incorporated in their draft at all. So then we get back to the question of does Mike Kafka buy into what's going on here with the Philadelphia Eagles? And I also think that I don't know. He's young, man. Like
I talked to someone close to him. There's mutual interest here. It's just
okay.
I don't. We'll see where this goes. You got to take a leap of faith if you're hiring him this early. If you're at the very least, they should talk to him. Okay, get a like they've done a good job, from what I understand, with these pre-interviews. Well, they're not called pre-interviews. If you talk to someone for an hour and 20 minutes on Skype, that counts as an interview.
Mm-hmm.
But if it goes well, you're getting a real interview in person, which they've done in Palm Beach and where Jeffrey lives in Florida.
Right.
So if that happens, if you get past the first part, you're going there. So, or in the case of Robert Saleh, I guess it's just they kind of knew how much they liked him, and they're pressed for time with him because he's got so many interviews going on. So they did it nights ago, which is smart. And they got Arthur Smith because another guy. He has a very tight window here. They got him in on Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon. I'm sorry, Thursday afternoon they got him in.
Yeah,
we'll get to him in a second. So yeah, you're right with this analytics stuff. I'm glad you brought it up because I'd forgotten about how important it is. I knew it subconsciously, but if you're not embracing it, you're not getting in. No chance.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'll be interested to see and find out more about these guys and what they're, how they feel about it. And I wonder if, there's kind of like some word, and maybe you've heard about it, that Mike McCarthy said he was all into analytics when he took the Cowboys job, and what he said and what he really meant were two different things. So you do wonder if people will fudge it a little bit.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time with PFF on his time away, and he hired this big staff of all these former coaches to do research. Okay. Then, of course, Mike doesn't call the plays. Kellen Moore does.
Right.
So you might as well hit on Kellen Moore here real quickly. There are a lot of people around the league who believe that the Eagles are just doing this to get them to more for intel on Dallas's offense. I'm not saying that's why they're doing it, but there are people I've talked to who believe that's why they're doing it. Okay, the Eagles could say whatever they want to say, but this is a common tactic. Al Davis used to do it when he bring in people he had no interest in hiring or guys he was interested in, but it was more because he wanted intel and what they thought of the team. I want to learn more about them and what they do. We'll see.
It's not like he comes out of nowhere. I mean, his offense has done well. Sure, when Dak's the quarterback, and his college wanted to hire him.
Right, Boise wanted. Right, he is really smart. One of the Cowboys' former assistants told me he told me this 2 years ago. He goes, Kellen's only been coaching for a little bit of time here. He will be a head coach someday. I'm like, Kellen Moore, really? I was surprised the guy said it, but this is one of my trusted Cowboys sources. He goes, I'm telling you, this guy's going to be a head coach because he's got great command. He's not the biggest guy physically in the world, but he's got a good presence and he's super smart and he's very well organized.
Right.
So that's important. And I'm sure he embraces analytics.
Right. Well, all right. Yeah. I mean, again, it doesn't hurt to interview somebody. Here's what you wonder though.
Like, they may disagree with me. By the way, I'm not even sourcing this one. They just may disagree with me in terms of why they're bringing him in. People around the league I've talked to think that they just don't think that this is, oh yeah, wow, he's really smart. We may want to hire him. Some people are like, I think it may be more for information. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're bringing in the Patrick Graham who did a heck of a job with the Giants defense. So it's not like they're bringing in anybody.
Yeah, boy, he's great.
He did a really good job with that defense.
Phenomenal.
The thing on Arthur Smith and Robert, is it Saleh or Saleh?
Saleh.
Robert Saleh. All right. So the thing on this here, Adam, is that it feels to me like they're probably going to be employed soon. Like they may have jobs by the time some people listen to this podcast.
Well, it's Friday. Robert Saleh, I'm slightly surprised he has not gotten the offer from the Jets yet. I mean, we'll see if he does. I know for a fact he did very well there, but we'll see. The Lions wanted him. He wanted them. It didn't work out. We'll see what the new GM wants to do. Brad Holmes, who came over from the Rams. Robert Saleh is just a great candidate. He was the runner-up for the Browns job last year. I just think that because of Baker Mayfield, that's why they went with Stefanski. And by the way, it was a great choice. How do you argue against it? I mean, this is crazy that they've gone. I never saw this. I mean, funny story before we move on to the next candidate. I'm talking to the Browns right before the season started, and we were just exchanging information. And the guy goes, "So how do you think we're going to do this year?" I'm like, "I think you guys could be 8-8." He goes, "You know what? With this new staff, sure, I would take that." I mean,
oh my God, the Browns, of course they would.
I mean, who the hell saw it? It's unbelievable. And all the COVID shit that they've done with, and they don't have Stefanski for the Joe Bitonio, both offensive line coaches, head coach,
right?
And they smoked the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Really?
Hey, hats off to
Denzel Ward out. Yeah, but all these guys are back now. And Bill Callahan and my God, great. I love this. I'm so rooting for them. God,
there are the team. Well, their fun is going to end this weekend.
Probably.
Sure. But it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool. I agree with you. All right, so we've talked about. Let's get to Lincoln Riley
Yes.
a little bit. So
What do you got here? What do you got here?
So here's the thing, like this people are going to be listening to this on Friday morning. Most people will be listening to us on Friday. As of Thursday night, you have not heard Lincoln Riley come out and publicly say, "I'm staying in Oklahoma." And I think that's interesting because I think last year after the flirtation with Dallas, he came out and said, I'm committed to Oklahoma. It's not time for me yet." And as I understand it, he's kind of in between deciding whether he wants to commit to Oklahoma or take an interview. When I say commit to Oklahoma, just be like stiff on the NFL.
Sure.
Not, just say I'm going back to Oklahoma, or take this interview that the Eagles want to have. And I would have thought that if the Eagles were completely shut out, that he would have already done the I'm going back to Oklahoma public talk. Maybe he's told people privately, but it's not out there publicly. I am going back to Oklahoma, no doubt about it. Sure. So I find that interesting.
Yeah. Plus the recruiting season.
Yeah.
I do believe if he takes an in-person interview, not a Zoom, if he does an in-person interview, the chances would significantly increase that they have a much better chance. I'm not saying he would do it, but I think it goes from small chance to, okay, this thing's in play here. This has got a real chance to happen. Because quite frankly, why even go through why go through this if you're not going to want to, if you don't have a real interest in doing it? You and I have outlined I've been pretty close to what it looks like as a job. There's certain challenges, specific challenges, the quarterback, the age of the roster, and just getting through everything, all the challenges that you have working for the Eagles, positives or negatives. So if you're Lincoln Riley, who's the king of Oklahoma, making somewhere around $6.5 million a year, it's certainly not, you're not leaving for money. It's a chance to work in the National Football League and work in a great market, great fan base, tough, obviously, but man, owner is going to spend money. As much as we went after the owner on our Wednesday show, the positives are the guy that he'll never spare an expense. He wants to win badly. He's unbelievably supportive. And if you talk to any coach or any executive who's worked for the Eagles, they love working for Jeffrey Lurie because they take care of the families. They spend money. Now, we know what the negatives are. Does he get involved? Yes, to a certain degree. The age of the roster to me has been brought up to me by coaching agents. That's certainly a concern. And is this a rebuild or isn't it? I think it's more of a half rebuild. That to me is a real factor here for these coaches. Because yes, it's an NFL head coaching job. There are only 1 of 32 of them. These guys are interviewing for these jobs. If they're being offered it, they're taking it. I mean, who the hell's starting it down? Unless you're Arthur Smith now. He's a different cat. He's believed around the league to be the number one candidate right now, the best cat. Now that Urban Meyer's off the board, he went to Jacksonville. Arthur Smith is the guy right now. He is the belle of the ball right now, or the National Football League.
Yeah, so that's another guy, though, that by the time the Eagles are done interviewing candidates, and they've already interviewed him, that you wonder if they can get that second interview or double back or convince him to hire him, or if it's going to be too late. So that was the only point I made last podcast about having such a wide net and starting later than everybody else, and the fact that you kind of came out and said you're not going to rush it. But I know how Jeffrey thinks. I know he thinks that even if he's blown away by somebody and loses that guy, that there's going to be somebody else that blows him away as well. And again, it goes back to Andy Reid blew him away and nobody was even interviewed. Nobody even knew who that guy was. So that's partially why I think he cast such a wide net. He really wants to see as many different people and learn as much as he can. And he even said at the press conference, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So
sure, that's fine. I'm okay with it. But the thing you got to do, if you find that if a guy blows you away, it's got to be over. You can't let the guy go. Like if Arthur Smith is their guy, don't let him get on the phone with the agent, start negotiating the contract, because you want to make sure, because this guy's going to be here a long time. They want the next Andy Reid type guy. Andy Reid was so innovative and so forward thinking, and he matched exactly they were aligned in their thinking, man. I got to give them credit. It might have been my first year covering the NFL in 99. I can't remember how deep I was in 99. Certainly 2000, I do remember. But 99, man, who the bleep is Andy Reid? He never even called plays before. Like how It just
It was
it
mind
stunned
blowing.
me. And you remember what Ron Wolf said when they fired Ray Rhodes? He goes, "I don't know what the people in Philadelphia think about firing Ray Rhodes," and they found out Ray Rhodes was the head coach of the Packers for 1 year, and they fired him. Nice
Yeah, I
job there,
remember
Ron.
that. That's right.
Hall of Famer Ron Wolf, but he made a mistake.
He did make a mistake on that one. What about Brian Daboll?
Yeah, Brian Daboll. The only issue there is he willing to leave an unbelievable situation?
Yeah.
He's this is one of the all-time jobs, coaching quarterback. They're going to be a Super Bowl team, if not this year, probably next year. They're right now they're very poor. Oh, this matchup is unbelievably difficult against the Ravens. I'm pulling for them. I want them to beat the Ravens, but it's going to be hard. But his star would never be bigger, so he needs to make a decision what he's going to do if they lose this week. You know, does he start interviewing like crazy? Who knows? But the intel I got on him is he's absolutely ready to be a head coach. He just has to decide whether he wants to do it. What kind of staff he's going to put together. I'm working on staffing with some of these coaches. I got something on Arthur Smith I'll make a note about. I know I've heard Joe Bray through the coaching grapevine around the league, just talking to guys this week. He's put together an all-star cast of guys he wants on his list. Don't know that he's going to get it. Yeah. But talked to 2 or 3 coaches who know him and said, this list is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But again, you better have a deep and detailed list because you're not going to you can't get everybody you want. That's, Banner told us Andy Reid had a list of 5 coaches deep at the time they hired him. I mean, that's incredible.
That is incredible. I think that's an important point you're making. I mean, people get enamored with, oh, this guy wants to bring in this, that, and the other, but a lot of these guys are under contracts. They can't just leave their job. So, I mean, it's nice to have those big names, but you actually have to be able to bring them in and get them. Sure. All right. We'll talk a few more coaches. First, I want to remind everybody, while the holiday season may be over, the sports calendar is in full swing this week. From college to pro sports, there's no shortage of action, no better place to get in on all this action than with DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. If you haven't tried DraftKings Sportsbook, what are you waiting for? To celebrate this year's football playoffs, DraftKings is giving all new users the chance to bet on any of this weekend's professional football games at 100-1 odds. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any football game this week. And if your team wins, you cash $100. And while we're all excited for football, let's not forget the 2021 basketball season is tipped off. So head over to the app now to check out all of DraftKings daily odds boosts. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB when you sign up to get 100-1 odds on any football games this weekend. That's code ITB for new players to get a shot at $100 on any football action this weekend for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's move on to some of these candidates. 2 familiar names, right? One, Todd Bowles, the other, Duce Staley. Todd, obviously, because he's been here, and Duce has been here. Interesting names. I wonder about Todd. Like, only because when he was the Jets coach, he wasn't in a great situation. And I think it's good, by the way, that he didn't go try to get into another head coaching job. I don't know if he was offered one, but I always think it's better if you just kind of take a step back for a year if you've had a bad experience. And so maybe second time around things work for him. I don't know. He knows the organization.
He was just in a bad spot. Geoff, bad GM, awful. Terrible. You could have gotten Don Shula out of retirement. He had no chance. He would have had no chance. McCagnon, the GM, was only a college director for the Texans. Really good at that, by the way. He was in over his head, had no pro experience. The Jets, there's a reason why they were so bad from a front office perspective, because the setup was terrible. Todd had no chance. He was set up to fail. It's never a good thing when because the GM didn't know any better. He started signing crazy amount of free agents, and they got to be 8-8, I think, his first year. Mm-hmm. But it is a bad roster. It's just a disaster. So yeah, Todd is certainly worth talking to, and got to see what his plan is for development. As I said on our last show, DeFilippo was on his list. He was going to hire him as his OC with the Jets, but DeFilippo was blocked, and you wonder if he's on his list this time. And then we'll get to Duce in a second. I do want to mention 2 people, and then we can move on back to Duce. Gerard Mayo, here's the thing with Gerard Mayo. I talked to someone who knows him real well. He's only been coaching for like 3 years, but he's kind of like Mike Kafka. Yes, Mike Kafka's not the OC. He's a passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, but he's he's basically their OC light. Unbelievably detailed in game planning and the passing game. He is their guy puts together their passing game concepts. He's really, really good at it. Gerard Mayo is super smart. He is more of like an assistant defensive coordinator, but he too, like Kafka, they're very young in coaching.
I keep trying to envision like one of these guys like coming into the locker room after a tough loss and just speaking to the heart of the entire team at 34 years old or 36. Right. And it's just not something you commonly see. And I look, I'm not saying you can't do it, but it almost feels like you better be like Sean McVay and win right away so that everybody's on board with you right away. Sure. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be tough.
But you know what? Presence is presence.
Yeah.
Mayo's super smart. He's a former first-round pick. I remember the thing you would hear is one of the smartest linebackers in the National Football League, had some injury issues, and that kind of curtailed his career, but he would be good. Joe Brady they talked to. He's really young. The word around the league is he's probably not ready, but I've not heard from Eagle sources where they thought he was. Okay. They interviewed him. One thing on Arthur Smith, a coaching note, I'm told that a guy that he's super high on, so if he gets a head coaching job, he's almost certain to be on a list, is Dave Ragone, who's a passing game coordinator for the Bears. You might remember him as a former Louisville quarterback.
Yeah, he was at Louisville when I was at Penn State.
There you go. Dave is a really smart coach, and he and Smith probably will be working together if Arthur gets a head coaching job. So keep an eye on that one.
Where'd you say Ragone is right now?
He's with the Bears. He's a passing game coordinator for the Bears.
That's not, I mean, listen, you can't judge a passing game.
He's really good. He's really good. I had nothing to do with it. He's just really good. He's really smart. Okay. He's not the quarterback. So they've got a quarterback problem, not a coaching problem there.
Absolutely.
With the quarterback in Chicago. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. I want to talk about Duce. So,
yep, please do.
So here's what I feel, Adam. This is my way too early. And this is completely speculation on my part after thinking about it for a while. Yep. I think there's a better than average shot that Duce Staley is going to be the next head coach of the Eagles.
Whoa, why?
Here's what I think. I think that there are some really good candidates like Robert Saleh and Arthur Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think they're going to be employed pretty soon. I just get that feeling. I mean, you see reports already saying that. All right.
Yeah, Arthur Smith.
I'm not sure they're going to be available.
Yeah.
Okay. So after you kind of scratch those two off, for the reasons we've already discussed about Kafka, his age being one, and does he command an entire team? He's kind of a quiet guy. I wonder about that. Lincoln Riley could go back to Oklahoma. So if he goes back to Oklahoma, then it's a moot point, right? And so if you scratch these guys off the list, you start to wonder, all right, well, who's going to come and coach the Eagles that A, the Eagles are going to be comfortable with, and B, that candidate is going to be comfortable with. Maybe Todd Bowles because he's been here before, but Todd is so old school. I just don't get that he fits the kind of vision of the program building and analytics thing that Jeffrey and Howie got going on. I don't know that. I'm just surmising.
Well, no, but he was here before. Guy. It's not like he wouldn't know that. I would say when he was here.
Well, I know he knows it, but I don't know.
But I would say moving this forward, I would say analytics are a much bigger part in with the Eagles now than they probably were when he was here.
Right.
They've always been a part of it, but I believe now, based on all the information you and I have had for the last 4 years, boy, it's a major part of everything that they do.
Yes.
But the issue again with these defensive coaches,
right? Defensive coaches.
You got to have a strong OC. You got to have a strong quarterback developer, or you're not getting the job. Period. It's right. The way it is.
So I come back to Duce, and I think he's been here. He knows how it works. Now, I don't know if he loves everything that goes on with the organization up top. I can't tell you that, but he's still here. They've promoted him, and I know that a lot of people tend to. I've talked to some people outside the Eagles that know the Eagles, and you kind of always get this thing like, if I had that job, I would know how to deal with this, or I would know how to speak Howie's language. Everybody thinks that they know how to do it, right? When they're not, until they have to do it. But Duce is there, so he's seen it. And to be honest with you, I don't know that Duce is going to get any looks anywhere else because he hasn't yet.
Oh
so
yeah,
far.
he hasn't been on any list. Yeah.
So this might be, he may not love things, I don't know, but this still might be his best chance to show that he can be a head coach and do a good job. And maybe he can help get Carson back in with bringing in the right guys for Carson. And at the end of the day, I think Jeffrey and Howie may say, you know what, this is the best choice of fit because he's willing to buy into what we got. And we won't buy into what he is. He knows us, and there's no guesswork. Sometimes you bring in guys.
Well, he is right. Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
The issue again with Duce is, okay, who's your OC? Who's your quarterback coach? Who are you going to have develop the quarterbacks? There's nothing more important. It's not even remotely close with all these coaches.
Right.
It's about the quarterback. It's about the offensive development. Period. End of story. If you don't have it, you're not getting the job.
So that's another thing. You know that. I know that. I gotta think Duce Staley has watched everything going on. He's got to walk into that interview with a damn good list of names.
Better go, dude. Boom! I got this. I got that. Boom! Exactly. Here's my list. Let's
just say this: Duce is not going into that meeting and saying, this Press Taylor guy that we got on staff right now.
I still, I got to say one thing before we get out of here. It's just, I mean, everyone I've talked to this week says Peterson, it's just their opinion. They haven't talked to him about it. So many people in the league think clearly Doug wanted out. There's no way in hell you're coming with this list and being serious about it. I said, hey, hang on here. Doug's a little bit naive. I don't think he even gets it. I don't think he gets how ridiculous it is to go in with a list like he did. But hey.
Well, that does. That would fit the argument that he was just looking to get the axe. So who knows? But again, yeah, Duce ain't walking into that meeting without a good plan. He knows. He's seen it.
Yeah, sure. And hey, coach told me 2 years ago, one of their assistants said, "Oh my God, he's going to be head coach." And he explained to me the command, the presence, guys believe in him, guys rally for him. Beloved. I mean, beloved by the locker room and the coaching staff and upstairs. Everybody loves Duce. I would love him to get a shot. I'd love to see it. I just, he's certainly not their top choice. I can tell you.
And I'm aware of that too. Yeah.
And I mean, look, the two guys that I know they are very intrigued by are Kafka and Riley, Lincoln Riley coming into the process. Mm-hmm. As I've learned covering this business for 21 years, just because the team puts they're guys that they really like over others before they actually interview them. Some guys move way up in the list. If they blow them away, look, it's the interview is everything, man. It's everything.
I agree. Well, watch this happen. Maybe I'll save this podcast for 10 years down the road.
Love it.
Watch it happen where they kind of do wind up kind of falling into Duce. They didn't really get the top guys they wanted, and Duce winds up being one of the best coaches that they've hired. It would be just a typical Eagles story, if that were to happen.
It would be a great one. It would be phenomenal because he's so beloved. Other than Jaws, I mean, if we ranked our top 10 players beloved by everyone and the fans, he's top 5, man. It wasn't like he was a star. He just has this way about him. People love the guy.
Right. And look, you can't argue with the coaching. I mean, his players play well.
Really
He's
good.
had a million different running backs for the last 4 or 5 years. Each one of them in their own way has done fairly well when given that opportunity. Even Wendell Smallwood led the damn team in rushing 2 years ago.
I know Josh Adams did.
I'm sorry, 3 years ago. Josh Adams did 2 years ago. So that's amazing in itself, right?
Well, what it is he the way he's explained to me is this: he's an alpha in a room where you need an alpha.
Yes.
That's the way this one guy I spoke to said he just has this way about him where guys flock to him. And quite frankly, that's why he should be a head coach someday. I wish other teams would know this about Duce. I wish I don't know who his agent is, but I just wish see, this is the problem about the coaching searches. Some guys are great candidates around the league. They never get a shot because people don't know about them.
Right.
You've ever heard anyone from another team considering bringing Duce in for an interview? I don't think he hasn't had one.
No, I don't think he's had one. And that's why I say, this might be his shot. And, even if he doesn't love everything that's gone on, he might take it because it's the best opportunity and the only opportunity that he's got. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what happens from there. All right, real quick before we get out of here, Chiefs, Browns, who you got?
Oh, Chiefs. Boy, I didn't have a good week last week. Games. A couple things surprised me, but yeah, I'm gonna pick the Chiefs to win by 10 to 14 points in that game.
All right, Chiefs to win by 10 or 14.
I'm scared of the Browns getting behind. That's the problem. That's that. They're in major trouble if they get behind. It could get ugly if they could get up ahead though early.
Woo! Yeah, Chiefs are 10-point favorites on DraftKings. I'm actually gonna. I think it's gonna be like a 28 to 13 type game.
I think super high score. I think it's actually gonna be really high scoring.
It might be a little bit more because the Chiefs don't have a great defense, but and they can give up some running yards. So maybe it'll be a little bit higher, but I still think they're going to just throw the ball around all over the Browns. Yep. Bills Ravens game of the week.
Oh God, I'm struggling with this one.
Mm-hmm.
My head.
Who do you think's favored?
What's that?
Who do you think's the favorite?
Ooh, Bills 1.5.
Bills 2.5 according to DraftKings.
Okay.
All right.
My head says Ravens. My heart says Bills because I'm pulling for the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Picking the Ravens. Field goal.
Adam, I think the Bills are going to win this one handily.
Whoa, handily? Why?
Well, A, there's going to be some snow falling. B, I think the Ravens have played really well over the second half of the season, but they've won on defense, I think. The offense has been pretty good. The running game's been good. Lamar's been better, but still he's not what he was last year. And I feel like they're just walking into a buzzsaw with this because it's going to be hard to score as many points unless Lamar can run for 150 or something, which, you're getting deep in the playoffs here. I know the Bills defense isn't great, but I think the Ravens will score some points, but I think this is going to be something like a Bills 27, Ravens 17 type game.
Oh yeah. Wow. The snow. Holy. Well,
It might not be on your thing. They're saying that it's going to be lake effect, so it may not
be. Which could happen in Buffalo. I remember Bill Polian talking about that. You never know when it's going to show up.
Yep.
You have 50% chance of snow in that range. A little windy. Boy, oh wow. Yeah, it's funny because the forecast changed for the last time I looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I learned about this weather.com app, I didn't know there was a Buffalo, Texas. I never heard of that. Yeah, I was like, what? Because it's funny. I'm like, man, it's kind of warm for this time of year. Oh shit, it's not.
Oops. There's also a Paris, Texas as well.
Yes, that I've heard of. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So you like who again? The Bills by field goal?
I'm going to reluctantly pick the Ravens, but I'm picking the better team.
Ravens.
I think slightly the Ravens.
All right. Ravens are hot.
I know. Their defense is really playing really well. This is the one team. This is the one team, though. The problem. Now I give Lamar Jackson credit. It was only 10-0. But he threw a pick and they were down, and he hit Mark Andrews on that 17-yard completion on a third down. That changed the game.
Huge. Yeah, it did.
Changed the game.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. The other game of the week would be the Brady Breeze matchup. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Saints are 3-point favorites. I like the Buccaneers in this game.
Oh, you do. So does John Hansen. For fantasy points.
I do.
I like the Saints. My concern is, and it's been my concern the second half, this Buccaneers secondary has been mostly poor. Mm-hmm. After a great first half, I don't understand why they're not playing well. I mean, they're healthy now. Their nickel corner, Jamel Dean, missed some time, but he's back. He's not on the injury report. Mm-hmm. Their pass rush has not been nearly as good as it was in the first half. So I'm picking the Saints to win in a fairly tight game.
Okay. I think the Bucs will win. I think they've been more prolific on offense. Well, I can't say more prolific. Yeah. They've been much more prolific than they were in the middle of the season. The Saints are still very good offensively. There's just something about the Saints. I've been saying it all year, Adam, that when they get into the playoffs, they seem, over the last few years, they seem to underperform. And
Vikings last year. Hello.
Oh, yeah, of course. Vikings last year, and then the Rams the year before that. So I just, I got a feeling that this is going to be it. So Buccaneers,
oh man. I would love to see Brady Mahomes. Ooh.
I still would rather see Rodgers Mahomes personally.
Sure.
He's going to be pretty good too. All right, let's get to the other one. The Rams Packers. I think this is going to be a blowout, to be honest with you.
Well, because of Goff's right thumb, which was surgically repaired 3 weeks ago, and plus he didn't have a very good year. Their defense is out of the. I mean, they are phenomenal. They can match up to the Packers to a certain degree, but I agree with you. It should be a 10 to 13 point game. I would be very surprised because I just don't know how the Rams are going to score unless if they get turnovers. Okay, Rodgers is playing out of his mind.
He is playing out of his mind, and I am rooting for that Mahomes-Rodgers Super Bowl. So I think Green Bay wins this game by at least 10. All right. Oh. So that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check him out on YouTube. Sports Talk with Broads is the name of his channel. and his Twitter account @Broads81. Check him out there as well. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.